Over 1 million plays on my track with Nightmare called Torture. So I thought it's a good time to dive into the track and show you how I made it. So let's go. It's torture. So before we start on the track, I want to give you a little bit of the backstory of how the song came together. So I met him at festivals and stuff. So I met him for like a brief moment, but I didn't know him that well to like text him or anything. And then at some point I saw he was posting, yo, I'm looking for remixes for his album at the time. So I sent him a message like, yo dude, I know you played some of my songs and this is, you know, what I do, and I saw you were looking for remixes. If you're up for it, I would love to do it. So that happened. He replied very quickly actually, and I got the stamps, and that's how I made my remix called Shady Intentions. And afterwards, well, I had him on the chat, you know, so I thought, okay, let's grab my chance and I'll send him some songs. So I made a little ID for this track and I sent it over to him, and he loved it. He was very into it, and he was like, okay, let's do it. Let's do a track together, let's get it finished. So let's dive into it. So the thing that I sent him was a little ID that I made around this vocal. It's a vocal for the League of Legends game, believe it or not. Legends never die, it's cool.
Legends never die, they become a part of you.
And I really like that vocal, so I thought, you know what, let me just grab the vocal, even though I can't use it at all, and then build my track around that as a song starter almost, which is a really good tip in general. Like, pick something that you like already, because then you're halfway through the track that you want to make already, because you already like the vocal. So if you build something around it, remove the vocal afterwards, then, you know, you're 50% there already with your ID. So I made this for him.
Relentless, you survive. They never lose hope when everything's cold and the fighting's near. It's deep in their bones, they'll ride into smoke when the fire is fierce. They never lose hope when everything's cold and the fighting's near. Oh, pick yourself up, 'cause legends never die. When the world is calling you, can you hear them screaming?
So yeah, I really like that one, but yeah, you gotta say this vocal is amazing. So that was one of my issues there. It's like, I know a few vocalists and maybe somebody can pop this off, but I was like, okay, so what to do with this? And then he was like, yo, I actually have this vocal from Deadbyromy that they wrote a while ago, like 2 years prior to when we started making this, but he had a track or something and didn't fit for what he was using it for. So I was like, yeah, I still have this vocal, and you know, that fit perfectly. So he sent it to me, which is this.
Loving you is a new kind of torture. So used to the constant destroyer. A mind stranger, I can snipe the disappointment.
And, you know, that fits so well. So I'm very happy that we got this vocal. So shout out to Deadbyromy. So let me guide you through the intro really quickly. It's not too special, but it's the ID that makes it nice, you know. So we got Reese for the root note. We got some strings. We got a string solo to do a solo melody. Even more strings. That's more for like the background, you know. You need multiple layers in order to generate that emotion. Some brass. And I know on its own that sounds quite silly, but everything together. Some arpeggios. This is like a riser, but crazily distorted. The vocals, and then of course the drums, which are like war drums. And as you can see, I bounced almost everything out because at that time my computer couldn't run it. Basically what I do with these drums is when you get drums, war drums from Splice for instance, they have like very long tails. So what I like to do is cut every individual tone and then, you know, fade the tail and stuff. And even, you know, this plugin is very nice. It's called Stab. It's basically transient shaping, but it's not just transient shaping something, it makes everything tighter and thinner. So let me show you the difference. You can tell by the snare, like, that's very long, and with this, it's shorter, you know. So in the end, there's still reverb on top of it, everything. So this wouldn't work on a group. So you should like get every tom fill separately, like remove the reverb and all that stuff. Then I have more because I have like the wardrobe kick that I want separately, because then I can use that to sidechain everything else, because I still want the low frequencies in here, you know, because otherwise it will sound very thin. Then we got the build up, nothing too special, you know, the snare build and all that stuff. One thing that could be nice to show. So it's like, the vocal get loops and it's getting faster and faster. So what I like to do is to use phase plan for this. So I'll look at the vocal and then I just pick that part, because that's the part that I want to loop. I bounce that out and I throw it in phase plan. And then if you put on loop, and you have to set the start level and the end level correct, because otherwise it doesn't work. And then you can modulate the length with a macro, for instance. So this one, and I have one for pitch, so it can go up. Because the loop is on, we, you know, make it shorter. From here, from the original vocal, the phase plan is taking over that part. And then you kind of make a riser out of it. And then a little Emma smile. But you know, it is simple. There's not much to this intro, but it's about how to execute it. And I feel like a vocal build-up like that, instead of like quarter note 16, makes it a bit static. And this way it sounds a little bit more professional. Professional, bro. And then we go to the good part, we go to drop. So as you can tell, my version sounds a little bit different than the final one, because most of it was done in my project, and then when it was done, I sent it over to NGHTMRE, and he kind of chopped everything up. Like he, let's say this is the whole bass group, he kind of did that, you know, and then made fades on every part, so it's, you know, a bit tighter. We got some kicks, some snares, and then I did a bottom snare. Like that's the main snare basically. I think these are just like extra layers for the crunch and stuff. Then we have a shitload of hi-hats and rides and stuff. What I did with this one is get a ride, route it into a group with a sub, and then distort it, and then eventually remove the sub again. So as you can see, there's probably not a lot of low end in here. Yeah, it starts kind of up here. But that way you get that crunch, you know, like the bass is so heavy. Placebo effect, I would say, but it sounds really nice. A lot of white noise and stuff to fill that thing up, because I wanted it to sound really big. And then the leads that I have in the intro, this one, are basically the intro leads, but an octave up, and then with a lot of like shaping, like Shaper Box or LFO tool, whatever you like. I think, yeah, at this time I was using LFO tool. So like getting rid of the start and all that, and then a lot of like crazy reverb things going on. So let me solo this, but as you can see, this one, the volume is going up and down as well. So there's an automation over here when the reverb comes back in, and then the whole reverb thing is quite, you know, like there's a lot of ODT and stuff to make it pop really heavy, and then there's this panning thing, so the reverb goes left to right very quickly to make it sound huge. And then there is also like a regular reverb, I think, yeah, that's this one, and a delay. So yeah, and those all go into a group which I sidechain with Shaper Box later on. so there's nothing, you know, interfering with your transients and stuff. We have some more like acid basses that I used. Like I said, I consolidated everything to audio because my PC couldn't run it at the time. So I can't show you all the theorems, but I can explain most of how I made it. So those were like acid basses with like lots of LFOs, and then it all goes into the same sense, the reverbs and the delays and stuff. And then for the main bass, I think we have this one. Then for the main bass, I have a hardstyle kick that I used. And I got rid of the attack, to be honest. Yeah, so let me show you. Here it's getting closer to the hardstyle kick, because I tweaked it a lot though, but it's from like this On Point Samples, shout out to them. It's really nice hardstyle. They make really nice hardstyle samples and stuff. But yeah, I tweaked it so it's more like a bass. So instead of like having an attack, I just kind of did that, you know. And yeah, I did the whole LFO tool thing. And I added LFO and stuff, LFO tool. So these are the effects if you wanna peep into that. But shout out to them. Check out On Point Samples if you like some like hardstyle kicks, and you can turn them into basses. You know, that's kind of what I try to do, because that's also a thing. I feel like if you make dubstep, for instance, or if you make drum and bass, and you only look for samples within that genre, then you're automatically stuck to that sound, you know? While, for instance, with hardstyle design, it's pretty close to dubstep and drum and bass. You just need to get rid of the transients, you know, like not make it sound like a kick. And that way I try to like make that my own little sound. So I got that, and then I have another thing. It's more like a growly phasing bass, you know. Let me show you the effects and stuff. That's nothing too crazy actually, yeah. Pretty simple. And then both of them I route into a group with some distortion, some ODT, like cleaning everything up, and then I render that out because, you know, my PC couldn't handle it. And then both of them together with the whole distortion chain sounds like this. And that's kind of what gives it the whole thing, you know. So then there's even more, like, I think there's strings that are reused, choirs and stuff, with a lot of sidechain. And it's not much, but it adds to the whole thing, you know, like everything, every layer makes it sound bigger and bigger and bigger. And then for the vocal as well, it's like I have the pre-drop vocal. And then a bounce set. And then I put delay on that, a bounce set as well, so I can like manually loop it. So now it's like a continuously left-right torture vocal on the drop, and then I can just put it off whenever I wanted to, instead of having a delay that continues the whole time. Because at that point these basses come in. So for this I made these kind of like little transient lead stabby things, which is just like a saw wave with some like phaser and stuff. Make it very short and pan it to left and right. I have a trap lead in there. Sounds really nice, I think, especially with the reverb animation. And then over here, yeah, I added a little reese because I felt like it sounded a bit too thin. And then again, the same basis, basically. Different key, and I added this to accentuate that flow at that point. And to be fair, that's basically it, because then we go into this part. Which has some more pianos and stuff, like cinematics.
I should feel blessed, but there's a chemical imbalance in my head. My eyes.
Over here I made 3 layers of brass. So yeah, that's basically most of the track. So yeah, before I go though, let me know which track I should cover next. And I hope you like this track, and please consider to subscribe and like. I hate to ask, but it really helps me to build up this channel and do more videos like this. So yeah, help me out, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.